Hi, good evening, everybody, or hello. How are you? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Elke Feuer. I'm an author and a fiction book coach, and I'm just a writer on her own journey, trying to help as many writers as I can along the way. The topic for today is going to be how to get out of a writing rut, and stick around to the end because I'm also going to share with you some of the things the tools and strategies that I use to get myself out of a 5-year rut. For those of you who've been in a rut for a while, hopefully these tips will help you. Let's go ahead and dive in. The first thing, and to me is one of the most important things to do to get out of your rut, is to recognize that you're in a rut. And you might be thinking, but I know that I'm in a rut. A lot of times we don't. Like for me, I didn't realize it was a rut. I thought it was a series of other things, when the truth is it was just a series of things that caused me to be in a rut. I think that's important to determine, is it a rut or are you just going through a difficult time? So, because there's a distinct difference between just going through a difficult time, if it's just been a few weeks or a few days or a few months, or if it's been years. So that's the first thing. The next thing you want to do is just to acknowledge your feelings about it, like what's happening, what's going on, instead of just either, brushing it aside that it's no big deal, it's going to pass, and not really diving into what could be causing that rut, and really diving into the emotions behind it. I didn't do that right away, and another reason why I think I stuck in that rut for so long. So that is something that's really important, I think, to do. The next thing that you want to do is to look at mixing it up, especially if you've been doing the same thing all the time. Like if you've been in a writing rut and you're trying to sit at the same spot you always sat at to write, you're going to the same places, change. It's always a good idea to do something different, to mix it up so that you're getting out of your comfort zone or your usual space that you're in. Because sometimes it's just like we're in that rut because we're not changing, we're not doing something different. We need to shift out of where we're at and what we're doing into something new. And that rut is a way of letting us know, hey, it's trying to push us out of the nest, so to speak. So that's something that maybe if you're in a rut and you're trying the same things that you always have and they're just not working anymore, is to try something new, mix it up. Thing that you can do is to set new goals. Is the first thing. Is just if you've been trying to set the same old goals and that's not working, is to set new goals, or perhaps it's to focus on the goals that you currently have. You've been you haven't looked at it in so long because you just know that you're not going to get to it. So what you need to do is maybe look at it and remind yourself that, hey, these are the goals that I set for myself and I need to focus on those goals instead of just ignoring them and burying your head in the sand, right? So just to recap around goals is to either change your goals if the old ones aren't working anymore and you've been trying to make them work, or if you haven't looked at those goals in a while, you've been burying your head in the sand because you just don't want to face it, is to really look at it and just say, okay, what can I do to focus on getting those goals achieved? The next thing that you want to look at is specifically with the goals, because a lot of times we set these big goals and it's just like, oh my God, it just seems so overwhelming that we don't want to take action, and then that gets us in a rut. And sometimes if we take a step back and say, okay, out of this goal, what is one small step that I can take today? And just tomorrow, what's the next step? Or if that even is too overwhelming, okay, this week, what's one thing that I can do towards that goal? So that you're not trying to focus on all the things that you have to do, which may have gotten you in that rut in the first place, is to just take the first step, one small step that you can take towards achieving that goal, and just then take the next step and the next, so that you're not overwhelmed with all of the things that you need to do. The other thing that I suggest is to create a new routine for yourself. If you've been doing the same old thing, you're getting up at the same time all the time, and you're just not feeling inspired, you're just not it's just not working for you, is to maybe you need to change it up so that instead of getting up at 6, you get up at 5. Like when I moved, I was constantly getting up at 5, or it was difficult for me to get up at 5 because I wasn't working yet. So it was so easy to just say, oh, well, I can stay in bed a little longer. And then I'm just like, this isn't working. So I need to change. And one of the things I did is going back to my 4:30 in the morning routine to get myself back on track. And that really made a difference. It wasn't sort of an easy, oh yeah, it's perfect and it's working great now. It took a little time to get myself back into that routine. And maybe that's what you need to do, is to create a new habit for yourself, because the habits that you have now just really aren't working for you. It's not helping you to move forward. It's keeping you in that rut. And a lot of times we can feel that when the routines that we have just aren't working. And sometimes we think, oh, well, something wrong with us. We need to try harder. When in fact, it's just we need to do something different. This is another really important thing that I think needs to happen, and that is to get help and support. That's a big one. And that help doesn't necessarily have to be, it can look like different things, whatever worked for you. It could be just, connecting with a friend more and talking with them through it, what you're feeling, because you just haven't been able to talk to anybody to get it out there. I mean, during COVID, a lot of us were isolated, and even though we were still talking, we weren't necessarily, it was sort of just talking about the events and what was happening, and not really necessarily how it was affecting us, and all the changes that were going on were impacting us on an emotional level. So I think that it's important to, if you need to get help, is to get help, or maybe you just need some support from friends, family. In my case, it was other writers and just connecting with them again, because I wasn't really writing as much as I wanted to, and I wasn't sort of working towards the things that I wanted, so I kind of isolated myself. I was still doing certain things, but I really wasn't connecting on the level that I used to. And when I did that, I definitely noticed a shift. I also connected with new writers as well too, which really helped to inspire me, hearing their stories and how they were doing and what was going on in their lives and the struggles that they were going through and how they worked through it. So I think that connection really helps us to work through our own issues, as well as be able to share and explain what's been going on, to get advice, and sometimes just venting really makes a big difference. Or not venting, venting, but also just sharing our experiences as well too, and what's going on with us can really just help us process our feelings and what we're going through and what we're thinking and what we're feeling. So that I think is important as well. One other big thing for me that was really helpful is to remember your why. I think a lot of times when we get into a writing rut, we forget to remember our why. We're so focused on, we're not writing, it's just not working, we've been trying this, and we just feel blah, right? And sometimes we need to take a step back and look at, why did I start writing in the first place? What was my reason? What was the purpose that I had? Whether it's writing in general or writing the book that you're working on. What was your why? Because I think sometimes when we're down in the trenches of it, we don't really see the forest for the trees, as they say. Whereas when we take a step back and we can say, oh yeah, this is why I'm doing this. It's not just because I just need to sit down and work on this or do this. There's a purpose behind why I want to do this. And a lot of times that can really rejuvenate us and inspire us, encourage us to that, hey, there is a reason why I want to do this. I think that's important, because like I said, when you're down in the trenches and just forcing things to happen, it makes it really difficult to move forward. Whereas when we take a step back, that I think is when we can kind of get clarity and remember why we're doing what we're doing. Another important thing is, and I know all of them are important to be honest, because I think they're all important. They're cogs in the machine that helps us kind of move forward. Even if it takes a little longer than others, I think these are all things that are important. And one of those things is to be patient with yourself. This was a hard one for me because I'm a kind of a go, high achiever, gotta do this, set those goals, get that done. And the harder I pushed, the worse I felt. Or I would go in a cycle where, I would give myself grace and I would be great. And then of course I would turn around and just, when I wasn't moving as fast as I thought I should, or that I wanted to, then I just ended up perpetually beating myself up, which kind of went against everything that I was trying to say and do to get myself out of that to begin with. So I think that's really important, is to be patient with yourself and recognize that it is a journey. It took you time to get in this rut, and it's going to take time to get yourself out of it, which leads me into the next thing that I think is important, and that is to focus on positivity. And what I mean by that, I'm not talking about, affirmations and being positive and all that. Yes, those are important, but those only took me so far. I think what I mean is, when I say focus on positivity, I mean in everything that is around you. It's really hard for you to stay focused when you're watching the news 24/7. It's really hard, because all you're doing is basically everything that you're focusing your attention on is coming back to you. You're gonna see it. Like, if it's that old adage, if you're looking for a blue butterfly, you're gonna suddenly see blue butterflies everywhere. And the same is true with negative things, as well as, more importantly, positive things. I started, if I started seeing negative things popping up in my news feed, and I was getting in there and and I'm like, what am I doing? Why do I care what these people are thinking? And it's just ended up ruining my day, because I'm sitting there arguing in my head and then feeling crappy about it. And I'm like, this is insane. Why am I doing this? So I started focusing on things that I saw around me that were positive, and making sure that those were the things that I focused on. And what I found is there were a lot more things that were positive stories, positive peoples that were coming into my connection. And that really elevated my vibration and just made me feel better. I was in a better mood all the time, and being in that good mood really helped me think, oh, I want to do things that I enjoy. And that was a huge shift. And tagging on to that is telling myself whenever I would allow myself to kind of get sucked into those negative thoughts and stories and things that were going on, I would create a new story for myself. So if I started thinking about, well, you tried this before and it didn't work, I'm just going to say, well, actually, you know what? That's okay. I'm just going to try something different this time. It's going to work it out. Everything is working out in my favor. No matter what happens, if this doesn't work, I'm going to try something new, rather than letting it derail me, because I would start and allow those thoughts to percolate and take me down that road where, this didn't work the first time. Why is it going to work now? You tried doing this before, it didn't work. And just telling myself a different story. And every single time those thoughts would pop into my head that were negative, I would find a new thought, until it's almost like you have to train yourself so that eventually those good thoughts are what came into your mind, and you're training yourself to respond so that that's the way you responded, instead of something negative and derogatory towards yourself. And trust me, it's a constant struggle, but I found that the more you do it, it becomes like a habit. Such a big difference. And the other day I even caught myself doing it, like saying something good, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. My first immediate response now for certain things is, you know what? It's all good. I don't know how it's going to happen, but everything is going to work out the way it's going to. And if it doesn't work out the way that I want it to, you know what? That's okay. It's going to be something better. And trust me, that does not come easy, especially if you're someone like me who has to know the why, who has to figure out every step. Letting go of that, having to control that how, is not easy. And the frustration that comes when it doesn't work out exactly how you want it to, that is so hard. But I can tell you, from being on the other side, such a relief when you are able to just say, you know what, still, this is how I'd like it to work, but if it doesn't work out, you know what, that's fine. Something else better will show up, or it just means that something different is going to happen a different way, in a better way than I even anticipated. I can't even begin to express how relieving that is to have that experience now. So I want to encourage you that if you are that kind of person, like I still am, but much better, it will make such a difference with just your peace of mind. The other thing I recommend is getting organized. I know this isn't easy, and I don't mean like completely rehaul your entire life. That's just crazy. That would just add unnecessary stress. But let's face it, we all know those little areas in our lives that we need to get organized, whether it's just, for me, it was just making sure that my reoccurring things that needed to happen, that I scheduled them in my calendar instead of saying, yeah, I'll remember because I need to do it every week. Let's face it, that ain't gonna happen, right? And just continuing to do those things that helped me get organized, and not necessarily trying to do it all, but just say, okay, what is gonna make the biggest impact right now in this moment in my life? What's gonna help me? And just starting with that and building on that and finding ways to make it easy to build on that instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, because believe you me, I was the queen of reinventing the wheel and making it so much harder on myself. And doing it this way really makes a difference. And then also just recognizing that, you know what, I was trying to do it this way, it didn't work, that's okay, I'll just try it a different way this time around. Or you know what, if I missed one time, that's okay, I'll start it again tomorrow, or I'll start it again the next time it's due, and that's okay. That did not come easy, let me tell you. But it makes it so much easier, and it just takes that beating ourselves up that we tend to do when we don't do something that we plan to do, or that we wanted to do, or that we know we should do. And getting organized is one of those things. And so whatever that looks like for you, like I said, we usually know those things that we know that if we do them and we get organized, that it's going to make a huge impact on our lives. So I just want to encourage you to go ahead and take that step. The other one is and for some people, this is a necessity. They absolutely need this. Now, this isn't really necessarily a priority for me, but it's something that I'm working on because I notice that it does make me, it does encourage me. And that is making sure to reward yourself when you make those achievements. And not just rewarding yourself, but recognizing what you've done. Because a lot of times, this has been a big one for me, is I don't necessarily need to celebrate, but it's a matter of reminding myself of the things that I did do. Because it's easy to say, well, these are all the things that I didn't do, and forget about all the things that we didn't do. But instead of doing that is to look at, okay, what are the things that I did do? Oh yeah, okay, great, that's awesome. And celebrate those things instead of just focusing on, crap, I didn't do this. And that's a huge shift, because recognizing yourself for those things that you did accomplish, even if it wasn't something that you planned, but you still did it, that's something to celebrate. And those little things are what motivate us to keep moving forward, because they make us feel like we are actually making progress and that we're not still over here when we want to be over there. At least we're getting closer. And I think that's really important, because like I said, those are the things, and reminding ourselves of those things is what keeps us motivated and keeps us moving forward and gets us excited about what we want to, or what we can accomplish. So very important. On to what are the things that helped me. And I'll try to make sure not to repeat myself, because I think I mentioned one or two things earlier, but these are some of the really important top things that helped me get out of my 5-year rut. Now, just to be clear, I was still sort of writing, but it was sort of just not at the capacity that I knew that I could do, just because of everything that was going on and all the things that happened that got me into that rut, and the steps that I didn't take that I knew that I should take. You know, we all know that. And I had to recognize that it was just something that I had to go through that, and just to, in a sense, forgive myself that, I allowed it to go on for that long. And it was just a phase in my life that I needed to go through, because the place where I'm at right now, I wouldn't be without having to go through that. And I think that's important to remember as well too, because otherwise it's like, oh my God, I lost 5 years. When the truth is, I think about all the things that I learned in those 5 years. And for me, it was more of not necessarily a writing rut, it was a publishing rut. I hadn't published a book in 5 years. And it was different things for different reasons, but it was still a rut. So Some of the things that help getting outside. Ooh, that was such a huge thing. I spent a lot of time outside in nature, just getting grounded, walking outside barefoot, sitting under the trees. If you follow me on any kind of social media, for a while I posted a lot of pictures with trees. I would literally go outside and hug the trees and I could just feel my vibration rise whenever I did that, and I just felt so much better afterwards. And the more I did it, the better I felt. And that is something that if I feel like, ugh, that's what I do. I'm like, okay, I need to get outside. And that is a huge thing. I think we take that for granted. It's so easy to think that, oh, we need to stay in and stay focused on what we need to do, when the truth is sometimes we just need a break to reconnect to ourselves, to reconnect to nature. So if that's not something that you're doing, and it doesn't necessarily have to be nature, it's just something that really elevates your vibration and really helps you to get connected back to you, because you can tell the difference from when you feel unconnected to when you feel connected. Whatever that looks like for you, that was a huge thing for me, was going out in nature. The other thing was working through what I was going through, feeling, thinking, frustrating, angry, happy, sad, mad, and journaling. Oh my gosh, I think the first 3 years, actually 4 years, I have a stack of journals where I just wrote just nonstop every day, pages of, my frustration and everything. And that really helped. I know, to the point where it basically drained so much that I find it difficult to journal now. I think I kind of journaled myself out. A combination of that, and I just found a different way to channel that energy that I needed to channel out in my journaling. I do that now with meditation. That is another huge thing that really helped me, was meditation. I would meditate for hours. When I didn't have my kids, at night especially, it would literally be hours. I would have on meditation music, and that just really helped me process what I was going through, heal on just a different level. It's just amazing. I know some people that are like, well, I tried meditation, that didn't work for me. And I want to encourage you to, it's got to be more than one time. Like when I first started meditating, I would fall asleep, or I found it really difficult to concentrate, to too many thoughts in my head, and all those things are normal. And then I just got to a point where it was just something that was just so calming, so healing, so amazing for me. And it still is. I meditate every night. Now for me, it's at night. Some people, it might be in the daytime. Everybody's different. And it's just a matter of finding, what works for you. And that was a huge one for me. It helped on so many levels. I could talk about that in a whole other video. This one I talked about, but I'm gonna say it again, is finding new responses to the fears that enter your mind. That was a huge one. It's just basically reprogramming yourself to react differently to the situations that come up. Good, especially the bad ones, the fears, doubts, all those things that come into your mind, is finding a different way to respond to them, responding in a positive way, rewording your thoughts of how you respond, but finding new ways of, responding to those difficult things that come up in our lives will just make such a difference. It made a huge difference for me. It still does in my everyday life. So whenever, something bad happens today, like, somebody cuts me off in traffic, I'll be like, okay, they obviously needed to get to that spot. They got somewhere important to go. And I just try to be more compassionate in how I respond, and trying to look at it from that person's point of view. And also to look at it from the point of view is, okay, what lesson is this trying to teach me? What else is it trying to chisel away so that I can be more compassionate, more loving, more understanding? And that's the way that I try to look at it now. And it's not perfect. I have bad days. Trust me, I still have bad days. But it takes me less time to bounce back or get back into that happy state of mind, because of the way that I've learned how to respond. That makes such a huge difference. So that was something that really helped me out of my rut, because what keeps us in a rut is those being on an unhappy level. When you're in a happy level, it's a whole other ballgame. So just want to encourage you with one important thing that I did as well too is remove what was no longer working for me. I have a tendency to, if it isn't working, I can make it work, right? And that works really well, right? That's what whoever said that, insanity is trying to do the same thing and getting the same response or whatever that saying is. And, I just had to kind of let that go and just say, what's no longer serving me? Even some simple things like unsubscribing to, channels that I no longer watched or, blogs, all kinds of different things, emails that were no longer serving me because I was in a different place in my life. I needed different things. So when I unsubscribed to those, I found that the things that I did need kind of showed up. Oh yeah, this is perfect. This is what I needed. I think sometimes we tend to hold on to those things that no longer serve us. So let go of those things. And that's something that really helped me in a big way. One thing that I did as well too is to focus on what was working instead of what wasn't working. It's very easy to say, this isn't working. It's not going the way that I planned. Instead of saying, okay, what is working? How can I double down on what is going well? And then just let go of that stuff that isn't, I think we try to fix what isn't working instead of just saying, hey, this is working. Let's do more of this. So that really made a big difference for me because like I said, I'm just trying to fix it. I can make it better. When in truth, I just needed to, let it go and focus on, hey, this is working. Let's do more of this. So that was a huge thing for me as well. Another thing was focusing on what I have instead of what I didn't have. Because a lot of times it's really easy to say, well, I want this and I don't have it. And that can kind of put distance between us towards what we do want to have. And instead of just saying, you know what? I look at all this amazing stuff that I have and just being grateful for that, I think. And once I did that and opened myself up to possibilities and just sort of said, you know what, I don't have it now, but it'll happen when it's going to happen. And a lot of times within a few weeks, it did happen and things just started lining up instead of just saying, this isn't happening. Why isn't it happening? Why isn't this going the way that I wanted? Why isn't this happening? I'm planning, I'm taking all the steps to make it happen. And that was not working. So, but when I just sort of said, you know what, I have this is working. I have all these amazing things that are going right. Let me be thankful for that and recognize the other stuff will come along when it's ready, when I'm ready for it. And sure enough, it did and it does. So I just want to encourage you. That was something that really helped me to get out of my rut. I mentioned this before, but I want to reiterate it again, and that is connecting with new writers, different writers, or perhaps connecting with those writers that you haven't connected in a while just because you haven't been feeling inspired. And, we tend to, as writers, isolate ourselves because we think, oh, we have to, head down and focus, and sometimes what we need is that connection with other writers that, inspire us, encourage us. And on the flip side of that, if you have had writers where you can just feel that you've outgrown it, it's just not the same, maybe it's time, or perhaps what they're focusing on isn't what you want to focus on anymore. What you've had is different. And, those feelings of the is your inner self way of saying it's time to move on. And, that's where finding a new group of writers will come in, one that are aligned with what you want to create for yourself now in this moment. And because you're still holding on to that old group, or those old connections, that might be why you're feeling like you are in a rut. So that's something that, like I said, really helped me. It was just connecting with new writers. I hired a coach, which was really helpful, but I know not everybody has that option. But connecting with new writers, new people, new experiences opens up a whole new world of opportunities. And it just, once you start to take those first few steps towards what you want to achieve, that the clouds will clear away. I can't begin to tell you that. So I want to encourage you to sort of, take those steps what I talked about in the video, which, you know, going from recognizing that you're in a rut, processing yourself, your emotions, your feeling, recognizing that, forgiving, accepting, and then just what are the things that you know you can do in order to start you on that first step and keep you moving forward. I think that is the most important thing, because what keeps us in a rut is when we stay where we are and we don't take action and we don't move forward. So I just hope that I kind of went on a little bit longer than I planned, but hopefully the content in here has been encouraging to you, and I promise you, you take those steps and you will be on the other side, and it's a whole different experience. So kick yourself out of that nest, get out of your comfort zone, and I'll be here waiting for you on the other side. All right? I will see you later. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.